Today I open my Bible to a random verse. In other words, I let God guide my hand in selecting a verse to share with you today. And today, the verse I want to share with you is Psalm 143:8. This verse comes from a psalm attributed to David, in which he is seeking God's guidance, protection, and deliverance in the midst of a difficult time. The psalm is a prayer expressing David's deep longing for God's presence and intervention. In verse 8, David is calling out for God's steadfast love to be revealed to him, particularly in the morning, which symbolizes a new beginning. The dawn of a new day is often a moment of hope and renewal, and David is asking that the morning bring with it a reminder of God's unwavering love. David acknowledges that his trust is firmly placed in God, a declaration of faith in the midst of trials. By asking for God's unfailing love to be made evident, he is not just seeking comfort, but a deep reassurance that God's love will sustain him through his difficulties. The phrase unfailing love emphasizes the constancy of God's love. It does not falter, it is not dependent on circumstance, and it is not conditional. David is reminding himself and affirming in prayer that despite the hardships he faces, God's love remains a steady source of hope. The next part of the verse, "For I have put my trust in you," further emphasizes David's faith. Trust in God is central to his relationship with God. It is not a passive trust, but one that is active, relying on God's goodness and faithfulness, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. David is choosing to trust in God's character rather than the turmoil around him. This trust is built on the history of God's faithfulness to him in the past, and it is what gives him the courage to face whatever lies ahead. David then goes on to ask, "Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life." This is a petition for divine guidance. It is a plea for God to direct his steps, because David recognizes that on his own, he does not have the wisdom or the strength to navigate his life, especially in times of uncertainty. The phrase, "show me the way I should go," indicates a deep desire for clarity and divine direction in his choices. It also reveals a posture of submission. David is not asking for guidance, but he is ready to follow wherever God leads. Finally, the last part of the verse, "For to you I entrust my life," speaks to a profound surrender. David places his life, his future, and his well-being completely in God's hands. This is a total act of faith. David is not only seeking God's guidance, but is also trusting that God will lead him in the best way possible, knowing that God's ways are higher than his own. For the everyday person, Psalm 143:8 holds a powerful message of hope and trust. It reminds us that in the face of uncertainty, we are invited to turn to God for his guidance and reassurance. Just as David sought God's unfailing love in the morning, we too can find fresh hope every day, knowing that God's love for us is unchanging. By placing our trust in him, we acknowledge that we do not have all the answers, but we are confident that he will show us the way forward. This verse encourages a posture of humility and dependence on God, reminding us that we can entrust our lives to him, knowing he cares deeply for us and he will direct our paths according to his perfect wisdom. In times of difficulty, this verse teaches us to lean into God's love, to trust his faithfulness, and to seek his guidance with confidence.